Hi, and welcome to Learning to Teach Online. In this module 10, we're going to talk about assessment and assignments. Now, this is the view, if you click on assignments on your menu tab, this is the view that students see. I'm going to turn off, I'm going to turn on the edit mode up here. And your Blackboard should normally be in edit mode, but I turn that on and off just so I can see what the students see, what I see. So if you're an instructor, you're going to see these tools up here, where you could build content. And this is where you could add items, folders, files, videos, images if you wanted to. You could do some mashups with Flickr photo, PowerPoint presentations, YouTube video. So content can be added to the assignments area. We're going to focus primarily on the assessments tab here in the assignments area. But you're welcome to play with this. This is basically just an ability to put, if you don't want to put your assignment documents under a documents, so if you have particular items that you want students to be able to do as an assignment, like watch a video or participate in a voice thread, or even put your syllabus in this assignments link, you could build all the content here if you wanted to. Today we're going to specifically talk about this assessments tab. In this assessments tab, there are 5 things you can do: create a test, a survey, an assignment, peer and self-assignment, assessment, and safe assignment. So let's look at the tests first. So there's this tests link here. And in here we can add a test. We can create a new test, or we could use an existing test, which would have been a test that we previously created. So if we're going to create a new test, we're just going to hit on create. And then we're going to name it exam 1. And we could give instructions. Please take exam 1. You have 1 hour. It covers the first 5 chapters. Okay, so whatever your instructions are, value 20 points. You can put them in here. At the description, instructions would be answer each question as best you can. Whatever your particular description of the test that you want to put in here, or instructions of what for students to do. And that's really the first part of creating the test. So now we've created the test, but now we have to add questions to the test. So you can create a question. You can reuse a question from a question set or a test bank, and you can upload questions. Now, uploading questions is something that you would do if you had a test generator that would be able to create a file that Blackboard could interpret. So if you have a test generator, okay, I'm going to show you an example of a test generator. And the thing is, each textbook company comes with, usually will come with a textbook test generator, computerized test generator. And I'm sure this is Pearson's Test Gen. Every company has a different way of doing it, and different, so you have to really talk to your sales rep from your textbook company if you want to learn the specifics of how your test generator, computerized test generator, will work from the textbook company, and how to export efficiently into Blackboard. So with this particular one, is most test generators, you can select the textbook and then chapter. And I'm going to create use the test generator. Let's call it quiz. And I'm going to pick a chapter. I'm going to say randomly select the questions. And I'll just say 20 multiple choice questions. And finish. And then I'm going to go and then export. And when you export, it gives you the option of many different export files. And you want to use the Blackboard export extension. So when you save it as a Blackboard export extension, that basically creating a file that you can upload into Blackboard. So let me close this. And then you would, so under tests, let's see, so you can, when you create a test, sometimes you may have your old exams will be listed of an exam you previously created. You can select that if you want to reload an exam you previously created or create new. That's what I was talking about before, but actually I kind of backed up into this for a second. I wanted to show you the upload, so I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to add that existing test. Nope, I'm going to have to start over. Hold on. Okay, so I'm back to where I was. Upload questions is what I was showing you. So you just browse for the file, connect the file that you downloaded from your test generator and hit submit, and then this will create your upload your questions and create your quiz. That way you don't have to write your questions out, because otherwise if you don't upload from your test generator, you will have to create your questions, and they give you a whole list of questions that you can use: true, false, short answer, multiple choice, multiple answer, jumbled sentence, fill in the blanks. So you can essay, calculated numeric, formula. So these are all a bunch of different ways that you can create a question. So you can create a question where, a fill in the blank question where you're looking to fill in a certain word, a calculated number where you're looking for them to calculate a certain number, so the answer would be a number, and if they get the right number, if they input the right number, then they get the question correct. And I'm just going to show you a quick multiple choice question. So we would call it question 1. What color is the sky? And would say one alphanumeric, vertical, red, blue. And since this is the answer, I'm going to mark it as the answer. Green. Okay, so, and yellow. All right. Feedback. So feedback's an option where if they get the answer correct, you can just say, if you want, you don't have to use feedback, but if you wanted to use feedback, you could say, is right, wrong, the sky is blue, you dummy. All right. And you can even put some notes if you wanted to include some notes, and I'm going to submit this. You can also create another question. Okay, so now my question is created, and I have my question here, and the green check mark shows you what the correct answer is. And this feedback to the student is, I'll show you when you assign the test. So I'm just going to say okay here. And let's see. Submit. All right. Okay, so when you're actually, so that's my question on the test. So actually when I'm going to assign the test, there's a couple buttons that you have configuration wise. You can say that show the description to the students before they begin the test, show the instructions to the students before they begin the test, and open in a new test window. So yeah, you generally want to show them the description and the instructions. A new test window would mean just a new internet browsing window would open up for the test. I usually don't select that because there's plenty of room inside the Blackboard. This is to make the test available so that students can see it. This is to create an announcement for the test to tell students, hey, there's a test. You can allow students to take unlimited attempts, so they can keep taking the test until they get it right, or you can number the attempts and say, well, we'll give them 2 attempts. So if they don't do well the first time, I'll give them a second time to take the test. And that generally for homeworks, I may give multiple attempts. So if they do it really poorly the first time, they have a chance to kind of study up and then try it a second time. And if it's an exam for the course, I usually only let them take it once. Now, if they're taking it multiple times, you can either set it to use the highest grade in the grade book. So if they took it 5 times and they got an 80, 90, 100, and then a 50 in the last attempt, they would pick the 100 the highest grade to put in the grade book. But if you put the last attempt and they get a 50 in the last attempt because they didn't complete it, that would be their grade. So you have to decide if you want to go with the highest grade or whatever the last attempt was. Okay. Forced completion would mean that they have to finish the test in one sitting. They can't pause it or save it and come back to it and do it later. I usually let them save it and continue later. You could set a time to say, you're going to have only 30 minutes to take the test if you want to set a time on it. And then make it auto submit after 60 minutes, so that way whatever they've worked on has been submitted. You can set a date range for when it's going to be available to, from a day to a week to a few hours. You can create a password if you want to, set up an individual password for students. So that way you can kind of have the test ready, and then say you want to deploy it into the class, you can give them the password, and then people can begin the test. All right, the due date you can set, and this will be put in the calendar of when it's due. So when they look at the student calendar, you can see when it's due, and you can say don't let them start the test if it's past the due date. So we're going to include a test in the grade center. And so showing results, feedback to students, we could give them the answer and show them it's correct and what they submitted. And this would be really, if you do this though, then they could pass it on to another student. And so sometimes you want to click on after submission, so after they submit, or you want to click on after due date. So that way they can, after everyone's done, they can view and see it. You can actually do two things. You could say after submission, you can let them just see their score and feedback, and then you can set a second marker, so after the due date you can show them the answers, the correct, the submitted, feedback, and show incorrect questions. So you can kind of even open it up, so you can do two levels: one after they submit if they just want to get an idea of their grade, and then two, they can see how they've done after the due date. Sometimes it's a good idea not to show them their score until everyone's completed, because if someone gets a perfect score, they can go to somebody else and say, hey, I got a perfect score, here are my answers, so this way they won't be sure. Present the test all at once, or you could do it one question at a time, or you can randomize the questions for each attempt. So there's different ways of mixing it up, so then you can submit it. So there's a lot of configuration tools that you can do in here, and here's my one exam. So if I were to click on it, I would get my instructions, and then it would say begin, and I didn't attach the question to it, so there's no question attached to it that I created before. So in the exam, now the exam is created, I can actually edit the test options. Those are the options of setting the date and the attempts, or I can edit the test, which means that I can go back in and add more questions to it. So let's say I could reuse a question. Let's find any questions. So here, if there were any questions attached to this particular course, you could reuse questions from previous tests. So we kind of went over that. All right, so let's go back. So that would be creating a test. So you can create your own test. You can upload a test. Now, creating your own test, of course, is time consuming. So you may want to, I usually limit that mostly to small quizzes, homeworks, or if I'm doing an essay test, it works rather nice. And you can also, in the assessment area, tests aren't the only way to assess students. You can also do a survey. Oh, actually, maybe let's see if there's a question on this test. Oh yeah, that's where my question went. Okay, so let's just look at that again. So on this was the exam another example exam I didn't load, but here's the test that he created before. So if you click on it, these are the instructions, and you click submit, and then here's the question. You click the question, save and submit. Okay, that's from pretty much the student's point of view. So right now it's not showing that I'm going to see anything, but after the due date, I can go in and see that I got it correct in my score in the exam from the student point of view. Okay, so there's also surveys. If you want to create a survey for your course, we could create a new survey. Sorry about that. And again, you can do the description and the instructions on the survey. And here you can either find questions, upload questions, or create a question. And so create an essay question. How do you like the class? And I'm not. You can add categories, levels of difficulty for keywords. And I'm just going to submit it. You can submit and create a second question. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, so now I'm going to submit these. Hit OK. All right, submit. Let's submit again. Okay, so now I have a survey. So this is a survey. Let's see, feedback here. I need my survey feedback down here, and it's not available. So I'm going to actually go in and edit the survey options, and then I'm going to make it. Let's see. Show the survey description to students. Yes. And make the link available. So I'm going to make this available. Allow multiple attempts. And I'm not going to set a due date or a password. I'm just going to all answers so they can see what they submitted. All right, so I configured it quickly. So now it's open, so then when the student clicks on the survey, they can begin the survey, and then they could hear the two questions. So these are like essay test questions. How do you like the class? How do you like the paper? Save and submit. And then you can go back in. From the instructor point of view, when you go to feedback, you can go back in and through the gradebook, you can see the responses to what the students write in the gradebook. There's no students, I don't think there's any students attached to this class, but you can view in the gradebook, there'll be, and I'll show you that in a bit when you want to view the results. Okay, so that's the survey. So you create a quick survey for your students if you want to ask them questions or different things like that, and it's pretty simple. Now, assignment is an additional type of an assessment. An assignment would be more like, most people use this as a homework assignment. So you can say homework 1. So as the instructions, I can make it worth 1 point. You can attach a file to it. So if you had a document or a PDF you wanted to read, that was part of the homework. It says a single attempt. You can put in the due date. So I'll make it the due date. I'll make it a month of March. You can make, and this is a due date here more specifically. If you wanted, here, if you wanted to create a due date, but then allow submissions to be submitted after the due date, you could do that if you wanted to. I usually leave this blank because this availability pretty much, I guess you could put this due date the same day as the last day of the availability, so they get a heads up. This just tells them when it's due on their calendar. So I guess it's very useful. All students or groups of students. So, earlier I said I was showing you how to set up groups. You can make this assignment for individual students or groups of students. So that way a group can take the test and they submit it once, and then the grade will populate in every member of the group who submitted this assignment. Okay, so let me just save that. Okay, so here is homework 1, and you can use this tool to kind of rearrange your assignments. So in homework 1, I may want to, let's see. No. So let's just show you from the student's point of view what they'll see. So I'm turning the edit mode off. So this is how the students will see it. They see they have a paper, a homework, a test, a survey, and again, if you click on the homework, so you could write your submission, you can attach your file to the homework. So if let me just cancel this. So maybe it would be a good idea on homework 1 if I actually, I'm going to edit, let me go back to the edit mode on homework 1. And I'm going to go and edit the description. And I'm going to say, read chapter 1 and answer read chapter 1 and complete all problems at the end of the chapter. Okay, so read chapter 1 and complete all problems at the end of the chapter. You can say attach your file or type into text box provided. Okay, something like that. So let me submit this. So this way now when they see the homework one, they'll get a description of what they need to do. So you can click on this and they could write a submission. So if they wanted to use, the text box, they could write a submission in the text box, or they could browse the computer. They can do it in Word and attach a file, and then you could grade the homework. Okay, so let me just cancel that. Let's go back to assignments, turn on edit mode. Okay, so that would be creating a sort of a homework assignment, where there you could just give them instructions and assign points to any homework assignment that you want to give them. There are peer and self-assessment, where you can create an assignment here where you can ask students to assess other students or themselves. Okay, so you can grade your classmates, and your instructions here. This this is a new concept to many students, so you may have to explain this to them. But basically, what you're doing is creating an assignment where they can read another student's assignment and leave feedback for the other students. So it's a way of students grading each other and providing feedback to make the class a little bit more dynamic and make feedback a little bit more generous than just you grading and providing feedback. So again, you can change your submission dates. So generally the submission dates are the student is going to submit their assignment between March 9th and March 16th. Then the peer evaluations will occur between the 16th and the 23rd. So you can set the dates of the range of the peer evaluation. So you can allow anonymous evaluations or no. That means that generally you would want to allow anonymous because you wouldn't want students to get mad at each other. Allow a self-assessment, so the student would assess themselves and show evaluation results to the submitter. Okay. And the number of submissions to evaluate. So we could say each person would have to evaluate 3 other students, and then I can put a date restriction for the entire assignment, the availability of the entire content. And let's see, so I'm going to hit submit. And then now I would have to create an question to be assessed. So you can create a question, and a model response would be what you're looking for. So when it says model response, you would say you would like 300 words, citations. You would want them. It's sort of like you can put like little rubrics in here on what give the students an idea of how to respond as far as their evaluation to other students. So let me submit this. Okay, so that would be question 1. And then you can keep writing the questions as many as you want. And then there's 2 points of view here. There's the evaluation and the submission. So this would be the submission of the assignment, and then the evaluation would be, you see here on the evaluations, these are the evaluations to be completed. So user 0 would be, a lot of times user 0 is you doing a self-assessment on yourself, and then user 1, 2, and 3 would be other students that you're assessing. So you can actually, you could just use the self-assessment where students just assess themselves and say how they did on the assignment, or you can use the peer and self-assessment, or just the peer assessment. So here is the functionality, and this is useful for online courses or MOOC-like courses where very big courses are hundreds of students, and you want students to get a little bit more feedback where you can't be as generous to every student because of the size of the class. And you can even make an assessment canvas where you're going to, again, create the questions that are going to be assessed. This would be an area where we just create a question here. Again, the assessment canvas is where we can create or add questions to the assessment assignment. Okay, so let's just kind of get out of here, and I can move this up. And you notice how they have a different symbol here. So they have this symbol here is because it's a group assignment. No, it's not a group assignment. This symbol here is because it's assessment. Grade your classmates. So they do make these a little different. You can see how the test has a different. Let me just move this up. Okay, so the test has a different symbol and the feedback sort of a clipboard. So each of the different types of things you set up will be a different icon. Okay, so we went over how to set up a test, how to set up a survey, how to set up an assignment rather, how to set up a self and peer assessment, and the last thing I'm going to show you is how to set up Safeassign. So Safeassign is a way to create a paper, to grade a paper, but also double check it for plagiarism. Okay, so let's say paper 2 and possible points. Make this 10 points. Put in the due date. Okay, I'll give them instructions. 2, write paper 2. I mean, your instructions will be more elaborate. This is just an example. And then I'm going to make it available. Availability dates. Let's see here. Let's see. Availability dates. I'm going to just leave this open. But you could set, I guess it's always smart to set an availability dates for students, and we could make this a draft, which would mean that it's just a draft, and it won't be. It's important because it won't be uploaded to the database. Urgent checking, optional assignment. No, it's not an optional assignment. So a draft now with the Safeassign, when a student submits a paper, it gets put into a database. So that way, if another student of yours ever submits that same paper, it will flag it and let you know it's 100% plagiarized. Safeassign also goes out to the internet and sees if any of the text that they submitted to you has been plagiarized as well based on all the content on the internet. So it's a very useful tool. So this draft marker would basically say, it would really just tell the students, give them a survey, a synopsis of the amount of the paper that is identical to some other source. But it will store their paper in the database to be compared, because next time when they do the final draft, the final submit, it would compare it to a previous final submit and say that it was plagiarized. So this is an important thing to let students know it's a draft or a final paper. Generally, we're only using this for final papers. So I'm going to submit, and now I have this new symbol here, which is the Safe Assignment symbol. And now, let me explain Safeassign just a little bit more. So it's easy to set up on a Safeassign, and what basically this does, it's just like any regular assignment. It's similar to this assignment paper, except has the added feature of giving you a report on the amount of content in the paper that the Safeassign program deems as duplicated from another source, either a previously submitted paper or a source on the internet. So generally, when students submit a paper, there's going to be always a percentage that looks suspicious. Generally, my threshold is generally I investigate if more than 15% of the paper has been flagged as being copied from another source. Because remember, students can take out quotations from other papers and cite other papers and bring in material. So you may see 5 to 20% of the content maybe you legitimately copied from another source and cited. So that's not a problem. But if you see something that's above 20%, you should probably look at it and say, it will highlight in another color everything that's finding that's duplicated. So it's a good way to kind of give a double check to the assignment that the papers the students are submitting to you to make sure that they are not somehow plagiarizing from a source that's not appropriate. Okay, Okay, so I wanted to go into the gradebook and show you how to work with the gradebook offline. And again, I went to Grade Center over here, and you can open up the Grade Center and you can open the full Grade Center here. And you can also hide um, different columns that may be something you don't want to work with or use. You can hide from students, or you could just delete the column altogether if you wanted to. So I'm going to delete this column. So here I could see all the paper, the two papers, the exam, the test, the feedback, everything that I had set up in assignments is now appearing in the gradebook. So in the gradebook, you can get an idea if you want to view. You can download the assignment file, so you can see all the assignments if there are attached documents downloaded, and you could look at them there. You can a lot of tools in here that you can work with, as well as when the paper is actually submitted, there will be a way to grade it. So you can kind of enter this box here, and then you can pull this down, and you can say View Grade Details, and this will show you the student's paper, and then you can enter in the grade on the paper, and it will appear in the grade book. So you can grade everything from the grade book. You can either download all the papers directly and grade them offline, or you can grade them directly in the grade book. So if you do want to grade something offline, you would go over to here, Work Offline, and you would go to Download. And you would, I must have hit Upload Grades, sorry. Download. Okay, so you would say, you could select one item. I'm going to select the full Grade Center, and I'm going to just keep these defaults, tab, and the delimiter, I'm just going to make it tab and include hidden information, no. I'm going to submit, and then I'm going to download the file. So I'm just click download the file. All right, I had downloaded it before, so let me just go back. Download, submit. All right, so we can download the file, and it's an Excel file. Okay, so here I have the information, and so I'm going to grade the papers, the exam, the test, the feedback doesn't need a grade, and the homework. So I can enter in Excel. Then I'm going to save this file, and I'm going to upload it. File, save as. Okay, so once I've saved the file, you may get this little error saying it's in the text mode, but you want to keep it. Don't convert it to an Excel file. Just keep it in the text file that it originally downloads to. It may ask you, I don't need to save it twice. Okay, so then in the gradebook, you can go back into the Grade Center, and then you can upload your file. And you can browse the computer again to select the file that you just entered data into and saved it as. Okay, so I have selected the file, and I kept it in the same format that it came over as, and I'm now going to hit submit. And he's going to give me a detail of what I'm uploading. I'm going to have submit again. And now you can see the grades from Excel have been entered into the gradebook automatically. And this is very handy if you have multiple students. So if you have, 50 students and you want to grade offline, it's a little bit quicker for a lot of people to find to grade in Excel, especially if it's a paper. So you have maybe the assignment, you didn't want them to submit the paper online, maybe you just put the assignment up and then they submit it to you a hard copy, and then you could grade them by hand and enter them in Excel and upload them. So it depends. I know I usually do this when I have a classroom test that I bring to the testing center, and the testing center will create will score the Scantrons for me automatically, and then I can they'll give me an Excel file of that, and then I'll put them into the spreadsheet that I downloaded from Blackboard. I'll actually cut and paste from one file to another to put everyone's grade in, make sure that the names are lined up properly, and then I'll upload back into Blackboard. So this is just another feature to speed up grading offline and uploading back to Blackboard. Okay, so that covers Module 10, where I've gone over tests and surveys, self and peer assessments, and on and offline grading. So I will see you for the next module. Take care.